What's up, guys? It's Sid, and we are back with episode 3 of the Ordinance series. So, where we left off last video was we had finished talking about the early stages of the ordinance process, and then we got to the drafting the petition part. So, next was actually going to the city council for the first time and presenting our petition. So, at least how it works in Scottsdale, and this may be different for different cities, and I think it is based on the different legislative processes in different cities, how they actually pass laws and improve them. But at least for the city of Scottsdale, what you have to do is go to a city council meeting during the public comment section. So to actually public comment, you have to first be a resident of the city of Scottsdale. You then have to to sign up for it, you have to either go online and sign up for it beforehand, or right before the meeting, you hand in a little ticket to an official at that meeting, essentially signing yourself up to public comment at that meeting. Now, you can really public comment about anything. The caveat is, though, that no actions can be taken on public comment items. So essentially, that means that they're not going to approve or reject / oppose a law in response to a public comment, right? That has to be an agenda item for a law to be passed. So a public comment is really just to voice your opinions about the city in any way. What the public comment served to do for us is, in my public comment, I was able to show the petition to the city council members. So what I did, I actually signed up for the public comment beforehand, and I gave printed out copies of my petition to the city clerk I think a week before the meeting, and he was able to actually give it to each of the city council members beforehand so that they could look over what that was. And I'd also given them a redlined ordinance, a redlined version of the ordinance and how I wanted it to be amended. So that process actually took a while. I worked with lawyers, like I had mentioned, at the American Cancer Society, and we actually went through the existing laws. We went through the actual law that existed for not being able to smoke in public places and places of employment in Scottsdale, and we added in the exact definitions of vaping, e-cigarette usage that we thought would best be comprehensive and fit the goals that we had set out when we wanted to change this ordinance. So when you're doing this, you have to be very careful, because unfortunately the big tobacco industry will try to find loopholes in any laws that you make. So you want to make sure that we included like e-cigarettes, vaping devices, e-hookahs, things that are electronic cigarettes but don't necessarily release vapor into the air, things that don't necessarily contain tobacco. So you have to be very comprehensive with these legislations, because the big tobacco industry is constantly evolving, and they will come out with new products, and then those might not be covered by your legislation, and then you have to amend it again, and that's just a lengthy process. So you want to try and be as specific on the use case as possible to make sure that you're covering everything and there aren't potential for loopholes. So we gave that red line ordinance with how we want it to be amended. So any new stuff, essentially what red line means is any new stuff in that document, we would put in red. We'd cross out any old stuff in like a red cross out thing on Google Docs, and we handed that into the city clerk along with our petition a week beforehand, so that all the city council members could look over and review it. Then I gave my speech at the city council meeting during the public comment section. I talked about why this ordinance is important for the city of Scottsdale, how it has affected me, how it has affected my peers, my school, my community. I talked about the specific changes that we made to the ordinance, why I thought they were important, and sort of the process of what the Scottsdale Youth Substance Abuse Coalition have been working on for about a year at that point. Then they asked some questions to us. So the city council members got to ask some clarifying questions to us, probing a bit on why I thought this was necessary, and what they thought the city could be doing better to control the use of tobacco among the youth. So that was a very important process. And then they can either do one of three things after you give a public comment like that. They can either have no action, right? Or they review it and give it to the city staff to then make a presentation about it, or they can review it themselves and maybe do nothing about it. So they chose to review it and give it to the city staff to look at, prepare a presentation, and they agendized it for a future agenda. So that's part of giving it to the city staff, is it will now be put on a future agenda to actually be voted on, because it can't be voted on now because it was just public comment and a petition. At a future city council meeting, they essentially said that, okay, this will be on agenda and we'll vote whether to pass or reject this ordinance. So we were lucky enough to get them to actually agree to put on agenda, and they voted unanimously to do that. And in the next video, we will talk about what happened as the city council went over break over the summer, and sort of the processes and things that we had to do before it was actually put on the agenda for a future city council meeting. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.